Hey, well, I got my ear pierced. Check it out. I don't know if you can really see it or if hair is covering it or anything, because I'm pretty much not touching it. Because, they said don't touch it, like your hands are really filthy and you'll infect it and make it gross. So I'm just not touching it at all. And whenever, like, my hair kind of goes over my ear, I just grab my handy rat tail comb. It's pretty, isn't it? And I just kind of like, smash it right into against my face and just push it all back. And then, yeah, and this is how I brushed my hair today. So my hair's kind of flat and lifeless. I didn't get to do my usual shake, and I used Keep the Red color shampoo instead of volumizing shampoo. So flat hair. This is how flat my hair usually is. So all of the volume and craziness is just like what I add to it. I know my hair's not crazy volume, but it's better than this. Anywho, okay, to tell you about the piercing. I got the bottom ones done as well, as you can see, and they were like the easiest I've ever had those. And I had them done before the industrial, so it wasn't like on a comparison basis. But they did them with the little gun thing, which I really prefer. And I got to choose what I wanted on it, and so I chose these little crystals. Or fake crystals, it's not really like a diamond. It'd be so cool if they gave you actual diamonds for $26. But yeah, they used a little purple gun, so it looked really cool. And she was gonna give me second row like lobes, like put it here. And so she drew on the little dots, and she was like cleaning it with like the antiseptic wipe, and I was just like sitting there thinking, that feels really far out, like that's a bit weird. And then like I checked in the mirror, and I realized that the dents from how they'd healed over were still so obvious that it looked like they were still pierced. And I was like, oh, I want the first row, not the second row. And she's like, huh? I'm like, they healed over. And she's like, oh, okay, I'm glad you told me. And so she's like, looks like we don't need these. And I'm like, wiped off the little dots. And yeah, no, that was like really easy. I was just like, and it was done. And yeah, so that was like $26, which I expected, because in their brochure it said $26 for these and from $20 for all other piercings. That makes me assume things are going to be around $20. Yeah. Then I was scared about this one, so I got her to explain everything to me. I wanted to know exactly what she does. Was she going to use clamps? Was she going to use the teeny little metal tube that I've seen? I told her I'd been watching a lot of YouTube videos about it, and so I wanted to see which one of the processes she would use. And she explained to me that she wasn't going to use clamps because she doesn't really need to for this kind of piercing. Also, only 2 pairs had been in the autoclave. A couple were still processing, and they were being used currently for eyebrow piercings. But she didn't need them for mine, so that was perfectly fine. Everything else was autoclaved and sanitary and everything. I always thought it was autoclaved, because clave, enclave, that clave. But no, apparently it's clav, and I'm gonna go with the people who say it. If you know better, please tell me. But yeah, no, so she explained to me that she was just gonna draw the little dots on and freehand it, because she doesn't need a little tube, because she doesn't do it in that kind of fashion. And she would put the needle through the back first, and then pull it through the other side, so it would go 1, 2. And then she'd pull the needle out, and inside would be a plastic catheter, kind of like a lollipop stick. I asked her, I was like, is it like a lollipop stick? But yeah. And then she puts the jewelry inside the catheter, puts one end on, pulls the catheter through, and then ties the other ball onto the other end of the jewelry, and that's that. And so as she was doing it, she got me to lay down on my back, not on my side or anything. So I laid down on my back with that side of my head facing her. She cleaned it all up, and I told her to please tell me when it happens. She was really nice and chatty, so it calmed me down a lot. I had to sit on my hands, which was annoying because because Troy wasn't allowed in the room with me, I brought my toy unicorn, and he sprayed it with his cologne. Like, Troy sprayed it with his cologne, not the unicorn. And so it smelled like Troy, and I'd put it in my cat's arms for like 5 minutes while he was sleeping, so it had like Shaggy cuddles, because my cat's called Shaggy. So it was imbued with Shaggy cuddles, it was imbued with Troy cuddles, and Troy was like spraying it with his cologne, and it's the same cologne that he sprayed with stuff for me when I went to Canada without him. And so it kind of reminds me of Canada, reminds me of Jordan, reminds me of getting my tattoo. So it was just like awesome smelling unicorn. And I wanted to cuddle her because she's amazing. She's a little tiny pillow pet. And she's so chunky. I love her. She's called Princess Powderpuff. But I wasn't allowed to hold her like I was planning to as a comfort thing. So I just lifted up my tank top and shoved her in, and so that she could watch. So she was like, hello. Like where my fingernails are. That's where her face was. So she was watching. She was with me. But yeah, so I had to sit on my hands. I think that's so that I don't smack them by accident, because I've done similar things before. I've just like, without thinking, just like, but yeah, so sat on my hands, turned my head, and like I squirmed, and she was like, oh, you gotta keep your head still, hon. I was like, I know, I just need a minute to squirm. And she's like, oh, okay. And so I was like, yeah, why for like a minute. Well, not like a full minute, I'm not insane. And then I was like, okay, go. And then she's like, okay, and this is the first hole. And she like put it through, and I was just like, I'm gonna say ow. And she's like, feel free to swear. And so I was like, oh, mother, Jesus Christ, holy hell, holy crap. And it was just like a stream of like swearing, and she didn't hear the first F word. So then afterwards she was like, that was pretty good, you kept up pretty clean. And I was like, I think I said one, but like really bad one, but that was about it. And I got her to close the door to the room completely so I could make as many faces and words as possible, and I wouldn't feel like an idiot if someone was like watching or walked past and saw. And so yeah, and then she's like, okay, and that was the first one. I'm like, first one? What? There wasn't both? And then like I'd told her about a couple of YouTube videos that I'd seen that were like really badly done, and she's like, so this is the part where I kind of just leave it in, take a coffee break, drop the jewelry on the floor or something. I'm like, no! And she's like, I'm kidding. Here's the second one. And I was like, and like when you breathe out, that's when the stab. And so she like stabbed it through. And like that time I didn't swear as much. I kind of just sat there going, why did I choose this? Why do I want this? Why? And then she's like, and now I'm gonna pull out the plastic catheter, and she's like pulling it, and I'm like, for like the whole time. Because like, can you imagine having 2 fresh holes in your ear and then pulling a lollipop stick through it? Painful. Yeah, I may be a wimp, and I am a self-proclaimed wimp, but it's painful. Anyone who says different is insane. And so yeah, she pulled out the catheter, and then she's like, now I'm just putting on the jewelry and you're done. I was like, yay! And I got her to like explain step by step to me, because I wanted to be fully informed of what was happening to my head at all times. And then she's like, do you feel okay? Do you feel a bit woozy? And I'm like, maybe, but I'm not sure yet. I'll know in a bit when I stand. And she's like, okay, well, here's the lollipop to get some sugar back like through you. And I'm like, okay, I like lollipops. This is my 3rd one today. And she's like, most people are like, I haven't had a lollipop in ages. And you're like, this is my 3rd one today. I was like, I like lollipops. They're good. So yeah, I had the lollipop. It wasn't my favorite kind because it was kind of like the creamy one instead of see-through one. And I prefer like the kind of see-through ones, like the orange flavor and all that, instead of the like strawberries and cream kind of thing. But I ate it anyway. I'm not gonna be that fussy. And so I had the lollipop, then I sat up, looked in the mirror, and then we came out to the front desk, and I was like, I'ma sit down. She's like, okay, I'll take you back to the back room. And then like she put me down, put like a stool up on the end of the bed so I could like prop my feet up, and then like got me to lay down, turned off the lights and closed the door, and gave me back my lollipop. And because I had started like getting really dizzy, and I know what getting dizzy's like because of how I always get dizzy, so I was just like, yeah, no, I need to sit. Whereas most people would just be like, whoa, boom, and just collapse. I know in advance that I'm deformed in the brain, in the membrane. But yeah, so then I called Troy and I was just like, hey, can you come back now? It's all finished. And they won't let me leave until you're here because in case I pass out. And he's like, okay. So then he came back and I got up and paid. It turned out to be $109 for the industrial, which I was kind of expecting because $20 is just like, what, that's so cheap. So I paid for the actual piercing, I paid for the jewelry, and then I got this antiseptic spray. And then I got the actual like bottom earrings, so it came to like $156 altogether. So I was expecting it. That's what credit cards are for, right? Thank you. And then I left and I had to take 2 breaks on the way to the car. And I was just like, okay, Troy, can we sit on that bench for a while? And he's like, okay. So we sat down and I was like, okay, well, I just had to be able to see. And God, my wrist just keeps clicking like during the video. And I was just like, okay, I just gotta be able to see. I keep getting black spots in my vision. He's like, okay, so we'll sit. And then we sat out front of like a shoe shop for a while, and I felt really vulnerable because I was wearing one of my tank tops, and so it's kind of cleavagey, and sitting down is definitely, everyone can see down because I was like really low to the floor on this chair. And so I was like, I feel vulnerable. Can we go now? And he's like, okay. So we walked like, I don't know, we barely walked. We walked like around the corner, got onto like the escalator, and got up to the top of the escalator, and like by the time I was on the escalator I was just like, whoa, what's happening? And so like I started seeing like black spots in my vision and I couldn't stand up straight, and I sat down. This is all because I have low blood pressure. This isn't because of like, this isn't what's going to happen to anyone who gets an industrial. This is because I have low blood pressure. And so like I sat down and I was just like, oh, what is happening? And so we took like another 5-minute break, and then I was like, okay, one more out to the car, because we were like by the doors that lead to the car park. That's how bad it was. And so I was just like, and go. And I got up, like ran to the car, and then got in the car, and then sat there for like 5 minutes because there's no way I was gonna drive while I couldn't see. And Troy was like, so McDonald's tonight then, because we can get that in you real quick. And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I went to the drive-through, got the McDonald's, and I got me a Happy Meal. But they have the crappiest toys right now. It's like Smurfs 2, and I got one really cool one where you press the back of his head and like the whole Smurf glows, and it's so cool. And then I got Smurfette with this dragon wand that looks like a giant dildo, and so it's like, Smurfette and her glowing dildo. And then I got another one, which was Smurfette with the dildo again, but in this one she kind of grabs it if you press the back of her head. Yeah. Oh God. But yeah, no, so McDonald's, get better toys, or stop giving me Smurfette because she sucks. And so I got that one twice, so that sucks. But yeah, no, then I went home, cleaned it up, sprayed the spray. You spray like back, front, inside, and then spray the earrings, and you have to wash it off. They gave me a whole list of things to do. They were really professional, really good about it, and I'm really happy I have it. Shampooing was difficult this morning, but what do I expect? Okay. Well, I will see you next week. Bye.